Commander Jiho Kim stood in the main hall of the Galactic Council station. His dark eyes watched the alien representatives argue about humanity's fate. For 47 years, humans had been part of this council. For 47 years, they had been treated like children. The Valkyrie ambassador slammed his clawed hand on the speaking platform. His voice boomed through the hall. The human colonies of Kepler 442b, Ross 128b, and Proxima C will be placed under Valkyrie protection. This is not a request. Counselor Hana Choi, Earth's representative, stood up slowly. Her voice was calm but firm. The people of those colonies are human citizens. They have the right to govern themselves. The Valkyrie ambassador laughed. It was a harsh sound that made several smaller species flinch. Rights? Your species has been in space for less than 50 years. You know nothing about governing worlds or protecting them from real threats. Around the hall, other alien species nodded in agreement. The Centauri representative spoke next. Perhaps it would be wise for humanity to accept this protection. The Outer Rim is dangerous for younger civilizations. Jiho felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his face calm. This was not the first time aliens had called humans weak or young. It happened almost every day in the council. Hana tried again. We respectfully decline the Valkyrie offer. Our colonies are well defended and prosperous under human leadership. Well defended? The Valkyrie ambassador's laugh was even louder this time. Your ships are barely capable of faster-than-light travel. Your weapons are primitive. Your military is a joke among real warrior species. The hall fell silent. Jiho watched as Hana's hands tightened into fists. But she kept her voice steady. We ask the Council to respect our sovereignty as a member species. The Council voted. 37 species voted with the Valkyrie. Only 12 voted to support humanity's right to keep their colonies. The rest did not vote at all. The Council leader, a tall blue alien called Speaker Mordoon, announced the decision. The motion passes. The human colonies will be transferred to Valkyrie protection within 30 standard days. Jiho left the hall with Hana. They walked in silence to the human section of the station. Other species moved out of their way, but not out of respect. They moved because they saw humans as unpredictable and potentially dangerous if cornered. Send a message to Admiral Park, Hana said quietly. Tell him what happened here. 3 days later, the news came that changed everything. The Valkyrie had not waited for the 30-day deadline. Their fleet had arrived at Kepler 442b. The colony had tried to negotiate. The Valkyrie response was swift and brutal. Captain Sora Lee was on the bridge of her ship, the Indomitable, when the emergency message arrived. She read it twice before believing what she saw. The Valkyrie have executed the entire Colonial Council, she told her crew. 300 civilians. Men, women, and children. They broadcasted across the system as a warning to the other colonies. The bridge went silent. Sora's communication officer, Lieutenant Jae-Won Kang, looked up from his station. His face was pale. Captain, we're receiving a priority message from Earth Defense Command. Put it through. Admiral Minho Park appeared on the main screen. His face looked older than Sora remembered. Behind him, she could see other high-ranking officers from every human military branch. Attention all fleet commanders, Admiral Park began. His voice was steady, but there was something different about it. Something cold. As of today, all patience protocols are terminated. Operation Sleeping Dragon is now active. You have your orders. The message ended. Sora stared at the blank screen. She had heard whispers about Operation Sleeping Dragon, but she had never believed it was real. Her tactical officer, Ensign Yuna Shin, spoke up. Captain, I'm reading massive power signatures throughout human space. Ships are coming online. Lots of ships. Sora pulled up the tactical display. What she saw made her heart race. Across human space, hidden shipyards were activating. Fleets that should not exist were powering up their engines. Defense platforms that had been disguised as mining stations were revealing their true nature. How long have we been preparing for this? Yuna asked. Since the day we joined the Galactic Council, Sora replied. She was starting to understand the scope of what humanity had been hiding. On Earth, Dr. Isol Chang stood in a command center that did not officially exist. Around her, screens showed the activation of humanity's true military might. For decades, she had helped design ships that looked primitive to alien eyes, but contained technology that would shock the galaxy. Are all systems ready? She asked her assistant. Yes, Doctor. The stealth generators are offline. The Valkyrie will see our real fleet strength within the hour. Isul nodded. And the other species? Monitoring stations are detecting our energy signatures. They're probably very confused right now. In the Velkari flagship above Kepler 442b, Admiral Vextar received reports from his scouts. He did not believe them at first. Say that again, he demanded. Sir, we're detecting over 2,000 human ships moving toward our position. Their technology readings are impossible. These ships should not exist. Vextar laughed. 2,000 human ships? Their entire fleet is maybe 50 vessels, and most of those are cargo haulers. Sir, I'm reading massive energy signatures. These ships are larger than our dreadnoughts. Their weapons are powering up. The laughter died in Vextar's throat. He looked at the sensor display himself. What he saw made no sense. The humans had hidden an entire war fleet. Not just ships, but technology that his sensors could barely understand. A communication came through on the standard diplomatic channel. The voice was calm and human. This is Commander Ji-Ho Kim of the Human Defense Fleet. You have 1 hour to evacuate Kepler 442b and return to Velkari space. Any Velkari vessels remaining in human territory after that time will be destroyed. Vextar snarled. Human, you are outnumbered and outgunned. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick. There was a pause. When Ji-Ho's voice came back, it was colder than space itself. Admiral Vextar, you had 47 years to learn who we really are. You chose not to listen. Now you will learn what humanity looks like when our patience ends. The channel closed. Vextar stared at his screens as more and more human ships appeared on his sensors. For the first time in his long military career, he felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. Dr. Isil Chang watched the galaxy wake up to humanity's true nature. From her hidden command center on Luna, she could see alien fleets scrambling across dozens of star systems. They were all asking the same question. Where had these human ships come from? Dr. The Zentari are requesting an emergency council session, her aide reported. They want to know how we built so many ships without anyone noticing. Isil smiled. It was not a kind smile. Tell them we'll explain everything after we finish our current business with the Velkari. She turned to look at the massive display screen that dominated the center. It showed the real scope of humanity's military power. For 47 years, every human colony ship had carried hidden manufacturing equipment. Every mining operation had been building warships in secret. Every peaceful research station had been developing weapons that alien science could not match. Activate the asteroid shipyards, she ordered, across human space. What aliens had thought were simple asteroid mining operations revealed their true purpose. Massive doors opened in the rocks. Ships larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen began to emerge. These were not the small, weak vessels that humanity had been showing to the Council. These were dreadnoughts that dwarfed the largest alien warships. Colonel Deho Wan stood on the bridge of the newly revealed battleship Defiance. Around him, his crew worked with calm efficiency. They had trained for this moment for years, but always in secret. Always hidden from alien eyes. Sir, we're receiving targeting data from Fleet Command, his weapons officer reported. How many Velkari ships are in our sector? 43, sir. Including 2 of their heavy cruisers, Deho nodded. The Velkari thought they were the strongest military force in the galaxy. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Signal the fleet. Begin Operation Hammerfall. On the planet Kepler 442b, the human colonists watched their orbital defense platforms come to life. For years, these platforms had looked like simple communication arrays. Now they were revealing weapons that could crack a moon in half. The Velkari ground forces had been celebrating their easy victory. They had killed the Colonial Council and taken control of the main cities. They thought the humans were beaten and helpless. They were wrong. Ensign Yuna Shin was aboard the scout ship Whisper when she made the discovery that would change how aliens saw humanity forever. Her ship was investigating a Velkari supply depot when her sensors picked up something impossible. Captain Lee, you need to see this, she called over the communication system. Captain Sora Lee appeared on her screen from the Indomitable. What did you find, Ensign? The Velkari have been sharing intelligence with other species about our military capabilities. But Captain, they've been wrong about everything. They think our fastest ships can only reach 30% of light speed. Our real ships can reach 90%. Sora felt a chill run down her spine. What else? They think our most powerful weapons are plasma cannons with a range of 50,000 kilometers. Our real weapons can hit targets from 5 million kilometers away. And Captain, they think we have 50 ships total. The real number is... Una paused to check her readings again. Captain, we have over 8,000 active warships, and that's not counting the defense platforms and the mobile battle stations. Sora was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. Ensign, how long have we been planning this? According to these files, since before we even made first contact with aliens, the entire space program was designed to hide our real capabilities. On the Velkari homeworld, Prime Admiral Korthax was receiving reports that made no sense. His intelligence officers had been monitoring human space for decades. They knew everything about human technology and military strength, or so they had thought. Sir, the humans have revealed defense platforms around every one of their worlds, his aide reported. Our intelligence said they had no planetary defenses at all. How many platforms? Around each major world? Over 500, sir. And they're not small defensive weapons. These platforms have enough firepower to destroy our entire invasion fleet. Korthax felt his confidence beginning to crack. What about their ship numbers? How many vessels are we facing? Sir, our counts were completely wrong. They don't have 50 ships. They have thousands. And their technology is far more advanced than we believed. The Prime Admiral sank into his command chair. For the first time in his life, he wondered if the Velkari Empire had made a terrible mistake. On Earth, Admiral Minho Park stood before the assembled leaders of humanity's military forces. Behind him, screens showed the activation of ships and weapons across human space. Gentlemen and ladies, he began, today we stop pretending to be weak. Today we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten human civilians. He gestured to the screens. For 47 years we have built, prepared, and waited. We studied every alien species in the Council. We learned their weaknesses, their technologies, their tactics. We prepared for the day when diplomacy would fail. General Sun Ho Lim, commander of Earth's ground forces, spoke up. Sir, what are our rules of engagement? Admiral Park's expression hardened. The Velkari executed innocent civilians. They broadcast it as entertainment. There will be no mercy for those responsible. Hunt down every Velkari commander who participated in the massacre. Find them wherever they hide. Commander Nari Bey, the Tactical Operations Director, pulled up a holographic display. It showed the positions of Velkari fleets across the galaxy. Sir, they have ships in over 20 star systems. Some are deep in their own territory. Then we go deep into their territory. Admiral Park replied. It's time the galaxy learned that humanity protects its own. And it's time they learned what we're really capable of when someone crosses the line. In the Galactic Council chambers, panic was spreading. Representatives from dozens of species were demanding answers. How had humanity hidden such massive military strength? How long had they been planning this? Speaker Morden tried to maintain order, but it was useless. The carefully balanced power structure of the galaxy was collapsing. The species that had looked down on humanity for decades were realizing they had been deceived by masters of deception. The Thraxi ambassador stood up. His species was known for their intelligence gathering. We must assume that everything we know about human capabilities is wrong. If they could hide this military buildup, what else have they been hiding? The question hung in the air like a dark cloud. Across the galaxy, species that had thought themselves safe were suddenly checking their own defenses. The young, weak humans had just revealed themselves to be something far more dangerous. They were patient hunters who had spent decades learning how to destroy anyone who threatened them. And now their patience had run out. Captain Taejin Yu climbed into his fighter craft as alarms sounded across the human fleet. The ship was nothing like what alien intelligence reports described. It was sleek, fast, and armed with weapons that could punch through any known shield technology. Phoenix Squadron, this is Phoenix Leader. He spoke into his communication system. Today we show the galaxy what human pilots can really do. Around him, 24 other fighters launched from the carrier New Sol. Their target was the Velkari supply fleet, holding position near the gas giant Kepler 442c. The Velkari thought they were safe behind their shield walls and escort ships. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Commander Naribai watched the tactical display. From the command ship Determination, across 12 star systems, human fleets were moving into position. The Velkari had spread their forces thin, thinking they were facing a weak enemy. This mistake would cost them everything. All units report ready, her communications officer announced. Signal all fleet commanders, Nari ordered. Operation Thunderbolt begins now. The attack began simultaneously across 12 star systems. It was a demonstration of coordination that shocked every military observer in the galaxy. Human ships moved like they shared a single mind. Their timing was perfect. Their targets were precise. In the Kepler 442 system, Captain Sora Lee led the main assault against the Velkari occupation fleet. Her ship, the Indomitable, revealed weapons that alien science said should not exist. "Target their flagship," she ordered. "Let's show Admiral Vextar what human engineering really looks like." The Indomitable's main cannon charged up. When it fired, the beam cut through the Velkari shields like they were made of paper. The alien flagship's armor, designed to stop any known weapon, melted away in seconds. Admiral Vextar watched his bridge explode around him. His ship, the Terror of Worlds, was supposed to be unsinkable. It had fought in 100 battles without taking serious damage. Now it was dying, killed by a single shot from a human ship he had thought was weak. How? He gasped as his crew tried to save the ship. How are their weapons so powerful? His science officer, one of the few still alive, checked his instruments. "Sir, their energy output is impossible. They're generating more power than our entire fleet combined." On the planet below, the Velkari ground forces watched the sky fill with fire. Their orbital support was being destroyed ship by ship. The humans they had thought were helpless were revealing military technology that made Velkari weapons look like toys. Colonel Daiho Wan led the ground assault to retake Kepler 442b's capital city. His soldiers moved with equipment that the Velkari had never seen before. Their armor stopped every weapon the aliens fired. Their own weapons could cut through Velkari battle tanks like they were made of cardboard. "Secure the government buildings," he ordered over the radio. "Find any survivors from the Colonial Council." But they were too late for that. The Velkari had made sure there were no survivors. This fact was reported up the chain of command and noted carefully. There would be a reckoning for this massacre. Lieutenant Jaewon Kang was responsible for communications during the assault. As human forces systematically destroyed Velkari positions, he broadcast a message on all frequencies. It was heard by every species in the galaxy. "This is the Human Defense Force," his voice rang out across the stars. 47 years ago, we joined the Galactic Council in good faith. We sought peace and cooperation. We accepted insults and disrespect because we believed in diplomacy." The message continued as human ships destroyed Velkari vessels with terrifying efficiency. The Velkari Empire chose to test our patience. They demanded our colonies. They murdered our civilians. They broadcast these murders as entertainment. Our patience is now at an end. Captain Taejun's fighter squadron had reached the Velkari supply fleet. What they found there made his blood run cold. The alien ships were loaded with weapons meant for the human colonies. Chemical weapons. Biological weapons. Weapons designed to kill entire populations. "Phoenix Leader to Fleet Command," he reported. "The supply ships are carrying genocide weapons. They weren't planning to occupy our colonies. They were planning to exterminate everyone." The response from Fleet Command was immediate and cold. "Understood, Phoenix Leader." No survivors. The fighter attack was swift and merciless. Taejun's squadron moved through the Velkari ships like death itself. Their weapons tore apart the supply vessels and their escorts. Within minutes, the entire fleet was burning wreckage floating in space. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out in system after system. Human fleets appeared where Velkari forces thought they were safe. The attacks were coordinated, overwhelming, and absolutely devastating. The Zentari monitoring station in the Vega system watched in shock as a human battle group destroyed an entire Velkari patrol fleet in less than 10 minutes. The human ships used tactics and weapons that the Zentari had never seen before. "Send this data to the Council immediately," the station commander ordered. "They need to know what we're dealing with." On the Velkari homeworld, Prime Admiral Korthax received reports of disaster from every front. 12 fleet groups had been attacked simultaneously. All 12 had been destroyed or badly damaged. Human casualties were minimal. "How many ships have we lost?" he asked his aide. "Sir, in the first 6 hours alone, we've lost over 300 vessels. The humans have lost fewer than 20. Korthax felt the room spin around him. The mighty Velkari Empire, conqueror of 40 worlds, was being dismantled by a species they had thought was weak and primitive. "What about their casualties?" "Sir, that's the most disturbing part. They're not taking heavy casualties because they're not fighting like warriors. They're fighting like engineers. Every shot is calculated. Every move is planned. They're not trying to prove their bravery. They're just trying to kill us as efficiently as possible." By the end of the first day, the scope of humanity's deception was becoming clear to the galaxy. This was not a species that had suddenly become dangerous. This was a species that had been dangerous all along and had simply chosen to hide it. The human fleets moved with a coordination that suggested decades of planning. Their weapons worked with an efficiency that spoke of long research and development. Their tactics showed a deep understanding of Velkhari weaknesses that could only come from years of careful study. As the first day of the war ended, one thing was clear to every observer in the galaxy. Humanity had not just been preparing for this war. They had been preparing to win it quickly, decisively, and with minimum cost to themselves. The galaxy was beginning to understand that the young, weak species they had looked down on for decades was actually the most dangerous predator any of them had ever encountered, and this predator had been studying them all along, waiting for the right moment to strike. Captain Minsu Ryu piloted his deep space reconnaissance ship through the outer edges of Velkhari territory. His mission was simple: find every Velkhari fleet and report their positions to the human battle groups. What he discovered made him understand the true scope of humanity's long-term planning. "Control, this is Scout 7, he reported back to Fleet Command. "The Velkhari are retreating to the Fortress Nebula. But Control, we have detailed maps of that nebula, maps that are 50 years old." The response from Admiral Yunji Song came quickly. "Confirmed, Scout 7. We've been mapping their territory since before we made first contact." "Continue your mission." Minsu shook his head in amazement. Humanity had been preparing for this war since before they even met the Velkhari. Someone had been thinking very far ahead. On the bridge of the flagship Retribution, Admiral Song studied the tactical displays. The Velkhari Empire controlled over 40 star systems. In 2 days, human forces had already taken control of 12 of them. But this was not random conquest. Every target had been chosen for maximum strategic impact. "Admiral, the Thraxi are requesting a meeting," her communications officer reported. "They say it's urgent. Put them through." The Thraxi ambassador appeared on the main screen. His species was known for their intelligence and careful planning. Right now, he looked terrified. "Admiral Song, the Thraxi Confederation wishes to declare neutrality in this conflict. We have no dispute with humanity." Yunji studied the alien's face. "Ambassador, 3 days ago your government voted to support the Velkhari claim on our colonies." That was a mistake. We didn't understand the full situation." "What situation would that be?" The ambassador hesitated. "We didn't know that humanity had been studying us, all of us, for decades." It was true. Dr. Hyunwoo Nam, working from a mobile research station, had been analyzing alien psychological profiles throughout the war. What he found confirmed humanity's long-term intelligence gathering. "Admiral Song, I've been reviewing our files on alien species psychology," he reported. "We have detailed profiles on every council member. We know their military doctrines, their economic weaknesses, their political pressure points. This information could only have been gathered over decades of careful observation. The implications were staggering. While alien species had been dismissing humanity as young and naive, human intelligence services had been quietly learning everything about everyone. They knew which species would fold under pressure, which ones would fight, and which ones would try to stay neutral. The Velkhari had called on their allies for help. The response was not what they expected. The Korvani Empire, longtime Velkhari allies, sent a message declaring neutrality. The Drath hegemony did the same. Even the Skulhari, famous for their loyalty to strong allies, suddenly found urgent business elsewhere in the galaxy. Prime Admiral Korthax received these messages with growing despair. "They're abandoning us," he told his staff. "Species that have been our allies for centuries are turning their backs on us." His intelligence chief provided the explanation. "Sir, we've been monitoring alien communications. The humans have been sending private messages to every government in the galaxy. They're sharing information about our military capabilities, our economic dependencies, our political secrets. Information they shouldn't have." "What kind of information?" "Everything, sir. They know about our secret weapons research. They know about our trade agreements. They know about internal disputes in our government that we thought were completely classified." Korthax felt a chill run through his body. "How long have they been watching us?" "Based on the details they're sharing, sir. Since before we knew they existed. On the second day of the war, something happened that shook the entire galaxy. The humans didn't just attack Velkhari military targets. They simultaneously shut down every Velkari economic hub, communications relay, and supply depot across their empire. The operation required precise coordination across dozens of star systems. It required detailed knowledge of Velkari infrastructure that should have taken decades to acquire. The humans accomplished it in a single day. They're not just fighting a war, observed the Zentari intelligence analyst Kexdari. They're performing surgery on an entire interstellar empire. They know exactly where to cut to cause maximum damage with minimum effort. Captain Ji-Young-Oh commanded the strike force that hit the Velkari shipyards at Vorth Prime. When her ships arrived, they found the shipyards defended by the most powerful orbital fortresses in Velkari space. The fortresses lasted 18 minutes. How did we cut through their defenses so quickly? Her tactical officer asked. Ji-Young pulled up the attack plan on her screen. Look at this. We have detailed schematics of their fortress design. We know where their power cores are located, where their shield generators are positioned, where their ammunition is stored. We're not attacking fortresses. We're exploiting their weaknesses. The truth was becoming clear to military observers across the galaxy. Humanity had not just been preparing for war. They had been preparing for this specific war against these specific enemies. They had studied Velkari technology, tactics, and psychology for decades. Commander Youngman Ko led the siege of the Velkari fortress world Grimhold. The planet was supposed to be impregnable, defended by shield generators that could stop any known weapon. The human attack fleet arrived and immediately began bombardment. But they weren't trying to break through the shields. They were targeting the shield generators' power sources, which were located in underground facilities that should have been secret. Sir, how did we know where their power stations were located? His aide asked. Because we've been studying their fortress designs for 40 years, Youngman replied. We know more about their defenses than they do. On the third day, the psychological impact of the war spread beyond the Velkari Empire. Species across the galaxy began to realize what humanity's deception really meant. The Aquarian Federation called an emergency session of their government. The topic was simple. What else might humanity know about them? If they could study the Velkari this thoroughly without being detected, the Federation president said, then they've probably been studying us too. What are our secrets worth if the humans already know them all? Similar conversations were happening in governments across the galaxy. The revelation that humanity had been conducting massive intelligence operations for decades was more frightening than their military power. The Draconian Empire, known for their own spy networks, began a complete review of their security procedures. Their spymaster, General Vrexion, was particularly disturbed. We've been looking for human spies for decades, he reported to the Emperor. We never found any because we were looking for the wrong thing. They weren't using spies. They were using their entire civilization as an intelligence-gathering operation. By the end of the third day, the scope of humanity's victory was becoming clear. The Velkari Empire was collapsing not just from military defeat, but from complete strategic failure. Every move they made had been anticipated. Every strength they relied on had been studied and countered. The galaxy was beginning to understand that they had made a fundamental error in judging humanity. They had seen a young species and assumed weakness. They had seen peaceful behavior and assumed helplessness. What they had actually been watching was an apex predator that hunted with patience instead of aggression. A species that spent decades learning everything about its potential enemies before revealing its true nature. The most terrifying realization for many species was simple. If humanity could hide this much about themselves, what else were they hiding? And more importantly, what did they know about everyone else that they weren't sharing? The young, naive humans were gone. In their place stood something far more dangerous. A species that had spent 50 years learning how to destroy any enemy that threatened them, and was now demonstrating that they had learned very well indeed. General Sunho Liam stood on the bridge of the assault transport New Busan as it approached the Velkari homeworld. Around him, his officers prepared for the largest ground operation in human military history. But this was not a mission of conquest. This was a mission of justice. General, we're receiving surrender offers from the Velkari planetary government, his communications officer reported. Ignore them, Sunho replied coldly. We're not here for the government. We're here for the individuals who ordered the massacre on Kepler 442b. No one who participated in that atrocity leaves this world alive. The war had changed on the fourth day. The Velkari Empire was broken. Their fleets were destroyed or scattered. Their worlds were falling one by one to human forces. But humanity was not satisfied with military victory. They wanted something more personal. Captain Ji-young commanded the hunter-killer group that was tracking down fleeing Velkari commanders. Her ships had followed Admiral Vextar's surviving vessels to the edge of the galaxy, where the Velkari thought they could hide in the empty space between star systems. "Captain, we have them on long-range sensors," her tactical officer reported. 3 ships heading for the Galactic Rim. Signal the fleet. No escape. Admiral Vextar broadcast the execution of our civilians. He doesn't get to run away from what he did. The chase had lasted 2 days. The Velkari ships were fast, but human ships were faster. More importantly, human ships had something the aliens didn't expect: unlimited range. While Velkari ships needed to stop for fuel and supplies, human vessels could pursue their targets indefinitely. Commander Youngmin Ko was leading the siege of the Velkari fortress world Grimhold when his scanners detected something that made him smile grimly. Hidden in the planet's core was a bunker complex where Velkari war criminals were trying to hide. "Sir, we're detecting life signs in the deep bunkers," his sensor operator reported. "The thermal signature suggests high-ranking Velkari are hiding down there." "Then we go down and get them," Youngmin replied. "Deploy the mining mechs. We'll dig them out." The human assault on Grimhold was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of trying to break through the planet's massive defensive shields, the humans simply dug under them. They used industrial mining equipment to tunnel through solid rock, creating passages that led directly to the underground command bunkers. The Velkari defenders found themselves fighting an enemy that attacked from below, above, and from directions they hadn't thought to defend. It was not a battle. It was an extraction operation. On the Velkari homeworld, General Sunho's forces had surrounded the capital city. The planetary government was offering complete surrender, but the humans were not interested in political victories. "General, we've located the bunker where Prime Admiral Korthax is hiding," his intelligence officer reported. "It's 2 kilometers underground behind shields that are supposed to be impenetrable." "Are they impenetrable?" Sunho asked. "Not to us, sir. We've been studying Velkari shield technology for 30 years. We know exactly how to shut those shields down." The assault on the bunker was swift and precise. Human soldiers moved through the facility like they had built it themselves. Every corridor, every defensive position, every escape route had been mapped and planned for years in advance. When they found Prime Admiral Korthax, he was trying to destroy records of the Kepler 442b massacre. The human soldiers stopped him before he could complete the task. "You're under arrest for war crimes," General Sunho told the Prime Admiral. "You ordered the execution of 300 civilian men, women, and children. You broadcast their deaths as entertainment." Korthax looked up at the human general with something like confusion. "It was war. Civilians die in war." "Not our civilians," Sunho replied, "and not for entertainment. You're going to face justice for what you did." Captain Ji-young's pursuit of Admiral Vexatar finally ended in the empty space between galaxies. The Velkari ships had run out of fuel and were drifting helplessly. Vexatar's final message was a plea for mercy. "Human vessels, we surrender. We request treatment according to galactic warfare conventions." Ji-young's response was broadcast on all frequencies, heard by monitoring stations across the galaxy. "Admiral Vexatar, you executed 300 civilians and broadcast their deaths. You showed them no mercy. The galactic warfare conventions protect soldiers, not war criminals. You are not a soldier. You are a murderer." The destruction of Vextar's ships was thorough and final. No escape pods were launched. No survivors were recovered. The message was clear. There would be no sanctuary for those who harmed human civilians. By the 5th day, the nature of humanity's campaign had become clear to every observer in the galaxy. This was not a war for territory or resources. This was a systematic hunt for every individual who had participated in the massacre on Kepler 442b. Dr. Hyunwoo Nam, working from his mobile research station, had compiled a complete list of Velkari war criminals. The list included not just military commanders, but also the communications officers who had broadcast the executions, the propaganda ministers who had turned the murders into entertainment, and the politicians who had ordered the massacre. "Admiral Song, we have located all primary targets," he reported. 237 individuals directly involved in the Kepler 442b massacre. We have captured or eliminated 212 of them. 25 remain at large. Find them, Admiral Song replied. All of them. No matter where they run or where they hide. The hunt for the remaining war criminals took human forces to the edges of known space. Some Velkari had fled to neutral worlds, thinking they could find protection among other alien species. They learned that no one was willing to protect them from human justice. The Corvani government turned over 3 Velkari fugitives without being asked. The Drath hegemony did the same. Even the independent smuggler havens in the Outer Rim refused to shelter Velkari war criminals. It's not worth the risk, explained one smuggler captain to his crew. The humans have made it clear they'll go anywhere to get these criminals. I'm not starting a war with Earth over some Velkari murderers. On the 5th day, something remarkable happened. The Galactic Council received a formal communication from the human government. It was not a surrender demand or a peace offer. It was an explanation. Ambassador Jiwon-an delivered the message personally to the assembled council. For 47 years, humanity has been a member of this council, she began. For 47 years, we have accepted insults, dismissals, and condescension from species who saw us as weak and primitive. We accepted this treatment because we believed in peace and cooperation. The council chamber was completely silent. Every representative was focused on her words. 3 days ago, the Velkari Empire executed 300 human civilians and broadcast their deaths as entertainment. This action crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. It revealed the true nature of those who see mercy as weakness and patience as cowardice. Jiwon paused, looking around the chamber at the alien faces watching her. We are not seeking conquest. We are not interested in ruling other species. We are hunting war criminals who murdered our people. This hunt will continue until every individual responsible for the Kepler 442b massacre has been brought to justice. She gestured to a display screen that showed human military operations across the galaxy. You have seen our true military capabilities. You have learned that we have been preparing for this possibility for decades. But most importantly, you have learned what happens when someone crosses the line from political disagreement to the murder of innocents. The message concluded with a simple statement that echoed across the galaxy. Humanity protects its own. Remember this lesson well. By the end of the 5th day, the Velkari Empire no longer existed as a political entity. Their military was destroyed. Their government was in human custody. Their war criminals were being hunted across the galaxy with methodical precision. But the real impact of the war was psychological. Every species in the galaxy had learned that the weak, naive humans were actually the most dangerous predators they had ever encountered. Predators who hunted with patience, planning, and an absolutely ruthless determination to protect their own. The galaxy would never see humanity the same way again.